Hey guys, Jordan here. Today I'm going to be talking about real estate photography and camera settings. Alright, so what we have here is just your basic DSLR. This is a camera that we use quite often around here at Hdr Pros, which is a Canon 70D. I call this thing a workhorse because this thing can work all day long without losing battery. The battery life is very good compared to the A7R II that I use, which uses a lot of battery juice, and the battery is only 1,000 milliamps. So it does tend to drain a lot faster than this thing. For real estate photography, the basic things that you need is the DSLR, and you need a wide angle lens. I've seen so many times where people try to take pictures with a kit lens that comes with it, and it just doesn't look good. You're only capturing a portion of the room. Now on the other side, with a wide angle lens, sometimes it can make room stretch a little bit. That's why it's important to get a high quality lens. There are some lenses out there that are not very good, and they have a lot of distortion on the edges. So we use the Canon 1022 lens. It's about $600-700 lens, but we found that it gives the best result and is very consistent, and it works very well for real estate photography. So what camera settings should you use to get a solid image? Now there's a few different options. If you don't know anything about cameras or photography or editing or any of that, then I would recommend just using the in-camera HDR option. It's very simple, and you're gonna get a decent result. It's not very professional, but you're gonna get a pretty good result for no work at all. The camera's just gonna blend 3 exposures together automatically for you. That's probably the basic of the basic that you could use if you didn't have any time or didn't wanna add the extra pizzazz, which I would recommend. You know, pictures are very important for listings, and to have them stand out is very important, so I'd put in the extra work. Now that being said, if you step it up from the HDR mode in camera, and you are somewhat of a techie or you know photography a little bit, then what you want to do is set up the camera to bracket image shots. What that means is you can make the camera take a picture at 0, -3, and +3. So you're getting a wide range of lighting situations for each image. So it'll take one at -3, so it's going to be dark on the inside, but the windows will be crisp. It'll take one at 0, which is kind of like your normal, and then it'll take one really high at +3, and it'll give you a very nicely exposed image on those really dark areas in the image. So then you can take those into Lightroom or whatever processing software that you use, and blend those 3 together, and then it spits out an image, and then you can edit that however you want, and really you can control your images a little bit better by doing it in post-production versus having the camera do it for you in the HDR mode. So there's a lot of options when it comes to processing your photos for real estate photography. There's a ton of them. So if you just if you Google HDR image processing software, you can find quite a few. We have our preferences here at Hdr Pros, but you know, they're all somewhat similar. You just gotta figure out what works well for you. In Lightroom, I believe now they have their own HDR mode where you can stack images in 3s, because you're gonna be taking images in 3s, and then it'll blend them into HDR images, and then you can edit that specific image. Now let's talk about some of the other settings that I recommend on the camera. So if you're brand new to photography, you don't know too much, what's nice about the Canon 70D is that you can save your settings to a custom mode instead of having to set up your camera all the time. They'll automatically be saved, versus if you have a cheaper Rebel camera, you have to basically set your brackets to do that every single time. So the ISO settings that I would recommend is auto ISO, and have a range of 100 to 400. Anything above 400 on a Canon camera, you start to have quite a bit of noise. So I definitely wouldn't recommend going much higher than that unless it's a super dark room and it's a very long exposure. So the aperture that I've noticed that works pretty well for this lens and for most wide angle lenses is f8. It's a good setting for just your general real estate photography. So the aperture issues that you run into with real estate photography is if you go too low, like 3.5, though this camera and this lens combination does pretty well, it's going to be sharper in the middle, and then the outsides are going to be a little softer. So if you have it at f8, It's a good setting with not a super long exposure, so it does let light in. It's a good balance. So if you guys had any additional questions regarding camera settings for real estate photography and what we recommend here at Lister Pros, feel free to leave a comment below. We'll be more than happy to answer those for you. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.